this is Joseph and Train, and welcome to a new episode of Home of Sound. Home of Sound is the virtual and global home for any music lover to connect, learn, and engage with the electronic music community. We started the platform with this very podcast series to discover and share insights into the life, work, and tools of producers, DJs, VJs, promoters, label owners, playlist curators, and other creators. Since the global pandemic hit, we launched a series of online masterclasses with creators such as Ansom, Scarameia, Francois X, Swarm Intelligence, Freddie K, Face Fatal, Vijay Martinovna, Malika Maria, Lag, VSK, Romek, Manny D, Arjun Bagale, and many, many more. If you're interested in the masterclasses, you can access any of them, also in bundles, on demand at www.homeofsound.co.uk. To say hi, connect with us, suggest new guests, leave feedback, and see what else we're up to, you can find us on Instagram at home_of_sound. And for all the other links, visit linktr.ee/home_of_sound. And now, let's start with today's guest. Enjoy. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Hello.
Very nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Good to be here.
Yeah, very cool. I was waiting. I was really looking forward to meet you guys and to get to know you and ask you some questions. I have tons of questions. I'm sure we're not gonna have enough time to cover this. But let's start with a cheer for with our beers.
Cheers.
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 So, for people who don't know you yet, and if someone meets you like in person at a house party, and they ask you, "So, guys, what do you do? Who are you?" How would you answer the question?
So I would say, hi. We are Elektro Guzzi. We are a techno band. And then the person maybe will ask, a techno band?
What's that?
What's that?
What's that? And so I'm gonna have to ask the question: what is a techno band?
Yeah, that's always. And then I try to explain. Yeah, we are playing techno music. We play in the mindset of techno music. What we play it with drums, guitar, and bass.
Mhm.
And the next question would be, how's that possible?
Okay.
And then it gets difficult.
Yeah.
Then you have to explain a lot.
Yes. So
Or you say, come to a concert, then you will see.
Exactly, and that is the best.
Maybe
That's the best part. Exactly. So let's start with the origins. So how did you guys get together and started with this idea of being a live techno band?
I studied with Jakob, the bass player, who unfortunately cannot be here tonight. I met him at the music university, and we had some bands together, but it was more like rock bands, or I don't know, kind of progressive rock, or I don't know what we did. And at the same time, we had a good friend who was a DJ, and we listened to a lot of techno music, and we went to clubs dancing, and it was like really amazing to discover this kind of music, because I didn't know that before. And at some point we listened so much to electronic music, but still we're playing like ordinary rock music, and also like improvised music and experimental music. And at that point we decided, okay, so we listen so much to techno, but we play a different kind of music. Why don't we try to play this music? Because at that time we were students and we couldn't afford like drum machines or stuff like that, and we didn't know so much about it. So I had no idea about how you produce electronic music. And so we just went to the rehearsal room and tried to cover like our favorite Jeff Mills tracks, and just tried to imitate these electronic sounds. And then the journey began like that.
Yeah, wow. And I when I did research on your previous interviews, I had like one of your biggest inspiration was Jeff Mills, as you mentioned, Christian Vogel that you collaborated with, and few of the other guys from the old school Detroit techno. And I also understand that you guys have also other influences. So were you guys playing other types of musics before you started as Elektro Guzzi, as coming together and doing this techno band?
We every one of us did many different kinds of projects, like Bernie said, experimental stuff. I think that was also the scene in Vienna was very huge at that time with experimental electronic music, and in that scene we met, I would say, and this was the connection. And but when we started with Elektro Guzzi, it was clear from the first rehearsal that we just wanted to do this music. We never tried to do another style of music. We listened to a lot of different styles, but we really tried to stick to this concept because there's so much in it to find that it's still interesting after 15 years for us to play this music. It's still a challenge, and it's still we had rehearsals 1 week ago, and it's still challenge how to get this energy of techno music with our instruments. It's still a lot of fun if it works. So I think we will do it. I have the feeling we will do it until we fall from the stage and die.
Yeah, it's true. It's like still really a challenge to be in the right state of mind, because in the beginning when we started with this, for me it was like I was studying jazz guitar, so and I was frustrated by this like by this concept of as a backing band with a solo player and this kind of stuff, so that this like that it was not so much about like the whole sound of the band. It was much more about like solo players and playing solos and stuff like that, and techno music was like a relief for me to discover this, so that there's like to do a collective sound in a collective, whereas nobody is more important or less important. So it's like all about the sound in the end, which you do together, and not so much about individual instrumentalists or musicians. So that was like the interesting thing about it, and it's still this. So we're still trying to play together, to create a sound together where you don't where you cannot hear, okay, this comes from this instrument or this comes from that instrument. So that's not important. It's only important what is the sound in the end together.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of your live sets, the recorded versions, never yet in person, but I for sure will come to one of the next concerts. And one of the things that strikes is the fact that you guys are very focused on your music, but you kind of get into this flow where, as you were mentioning, Bernard, like you can, it's three of you like all playing one part of the same, music, of course, but the same piece. It becomes like almost like one instrument altogether.
Yeah.
And I believe you guys defined it at some point as a synthetizer with different modules, where each of you is like part of the synthetizer. And I'm really interested, like, was this something that came natural to you when you started playing, or you had to put effort to make it this way?
I mean, everyone has his function in the band. Obviously, the drums have more the rhythmical part, but we also try to skip these parts that, for example, Bernie plays the rhythmical part on the guitar. I do some ambient stuff with the drums. So it's nothing which is it's always focused on this whole sound. And we, like you said, we always try to see it as a whole synthesizer with 3 modules, and the modules can be anything.
Yeah.
So that's really a very good picture for us.
Yeah, and it does come across. It does come across. And another thing that is also very interesting about your music is that somehow you manage to make it sound not as the instruments, as the, let's say, root instruments. Like it sounds as it could be a synthesizer. Like if for someone who doesn't see you playing, it's easy to imagine that as being a modular synthesizer or a computer that is producing the music. So in a way, because probably of the way you play it, the processing, you make it sound Elektro Guzzi. It doesn't sound like a guitar, a bass, and a drum kit.
Yeah, sometimes when the stage is very small and people don't see us from behind, they don't know if the band already played, or they asked afterwards, did the band already play, or was it the DJ? And that's a compliment for us, because it's okay. Now we achieved really this music, to play this music. That's very good for us.
And
that's the goal of it.
And it's also like very much connected to what you said before, because we were so much influenced by this Detroit techno music. And what we also liked about it is that they had this concept of like pseudonyms and like hiding the phrase. And, you know, like you don't know who is this artist on stage. So because it's not important who is the person on stage. And we had the dream at the beginning also like to play behind the curtain, for example, so that nobody sees us. So that's because it's for us, it's really, for me personally, and for all of us, it makes no difference if the music comes from a DJ or an electronic live set or a band. It doesn't matter. It's like all the same. So it's only about what you hear out of the speakers in the end, and it should not be so important if it's a band or like an electronic musician or whatever. So this was also something we really liked about the music from Detroit, that they had this strong concept of like not talking so much, showing off, and not so be so keen about like being a star or like the
focus is music. Like the person is almost like a conveyor of the message. Like
exactly.
You're playing an instrument and producing music, but eventually, like what matters is the music itself. And it's a beautiful thing. I imagine you guys played in a lot of concerts, like both on the pure live concerts with other live bands, but also in clubs. Like, do you ever have any challenges when you're playing after a DJ, for example, into finding your way to get into the same energy or to bring a vibe that is for club?
For us, I think it's the best situation when we play in between DJs, because that's what it's about. It's always a very good flow. If a good DJ, I mean, depends a little bit which DJ is before, but if it's a good DJ, then it's really good for us to get in this vibe, and we hear the music for 2 hours before, and we get into this vibe of techno music, and to get on stage after a good DJ set gives us a very good energy. And also when we finish a concert and the good DJ starts again, then it's very good for us, because then we can start dancing and enjoy the party, and that's what this music is all about. And so that's the best situation for us. But it can be also challenging, or can make nervous if we had one gig where Robert Hood was on stage before us, and this was not. You can imagine. You get nervous if your legend plays before you.
How do you remember what was the context of there? Like, so Robert Hood was playing. Was it?
It was
a festival or club?
It was the Elevate Festival in Graz. It's a very nice electronic music festival in Graz, in Austria. And he was, I don't know if he played after us.
No, it was after us and before us.
But he was watching, he was on the side of the stage and watching the whole show.
Yeah.
No pressure, no pressure.
And then then Jakob gave him a record, and we were so nervous to give him the record. It was very nice.
Yeah. So you gave him like one of your records. Yeah.
But he liked it, and this was like in German it's a Ritterschlag. I don't know what's the
like, I don't know, like
becoming a knight so by the queen. So it's this feeling.
Wow. Yeah.
If Robert Hood says he likes it.
Being crowned by the queen, the king of techno. That's amazing, beautiful. And sorry, go ahead.
To come back to your question, if it's the challenge to play between DJ sets, it's in clubs. It's of course we are not able to produce this fat sound like that comes from a record, which is like mastered and produced. It's like a challenge to achieve this sound. We try it, we always try it, But in the end, I found out that's like it doesn't matter so much if we can really compete with the sound. It's much more about the attitude and the drive and
Energy.
and the energy and
And the energy.
people appreciate it in the end. So maybe at the beginning they're like maybe thinking, oh, this is not so bassy like the DJ before, but after a while, when we get in this kind of trance playing, so I think it makes total sense and it works very well.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I guess like also for DJs who are just pure DJs of electronic music, a lot of people feel the pressure. I certainly feel the pressure when I DJ. Sometimes you need to match the same energy, especially if you're in between two different sets. And it's interesting that you found your way to you bring your vibe, and even if it's a very different set, of course, like you enjoy, you embrace it, and you bring people to the same like to a different energy, but like you bring it with in your own way. Is there like a particular way you prepare for the live shows? For example, thinking about the club where you're going to be performing, the situation, the time of the night.
Mm-hmm. It's more like if there's a DJ set before our show, we are very much influenced by that. So we try to connect there. If we like it before, we try to like build up maybe. But it depends. So we don't prepare especially for shows. It's more like we prepare for ourselves. So we say maybe, okay, tonight we want to play more harder or faster, or we want to start with an ambient situation and then go into a tribal thing or something that's more like this. But in the end, we improvise a lot, and when we get into the flow, things happens by themselves. So it's most of the times we just think about the beginning of the set, and how it develops comes by itself most of the times.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, like you have certain, like, how much of the set is improvised and how much of that is in a way prepared? Like, do you improvise a lot when you are on? Yeah,
I would say it's like, like, of course we like, it's not always new. So we have, each of us has its sounds and patterns, but I would say like we improvise at 80%.
Wow.
Bernard, what do you say?
Yes, definitely. It's hard to tell because after 15 years of playing together, we have lots of things which come naturally. You don't have to speak about it or rehearse them. And so maybe it's all improvisation what we do, but in the end, it's we rehearsed this since 15 years. So it's, I don't know if you can call it improvisation or, it's made in the moment, but we know we have the patterns, we have the sounds. So it's maybe like a DJ works when he doesn't know which track comes next, but he feels it and then he does it. So it's not a prepared set, but he always has his tracks prepared.
Yeah,
so
you probably have
prepared to this.
You have almost like a fallback, like a, if things go wrong, you have your own way to bring it back to where you want it. Yeah, and there's another. I want to ask you more about your workflow and of course your production, your album. But one question that came to mind is when you chose the name Elektro Guzzi, can you recall any names that you didn't choose in the end? Like other alternatives that you ended up like discarding?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question and I really don't know anymore because it's really a long time. Because I remember we came up with this name. It's obviously somehow connected to Italy. And I remember with Jakob, like we had at the beginning, I started with Jakob, we had a different drummer for the first years. Mm-hmm. We were, at that time, we went to Italy a lot. I don't know why, for holidays together and stuff. And somehow in that time it came up, this Elektro Guzzi, but I cannot remember. I was thinking about it if we had any other ideas. I think it was like the first idea and we all liked it. I think it was like that.
Yeah, it worked. It's quite catchy because Guzzi, I think in Italy is from the I think
the motorcycle.
Yeah, motorcycles, exactly. Yeah.
And it's very interesting. For in there's like also like a German you can also use it in German. Guzzi means like it's something sweet, something small, which is sweet, which you can maybe eat. But it's not, like it's in one part of Austria they use it, but it's not very common. We found out recently.
Yeah, interesting. It certainly is unique. So you found out your way to make it work. Very interesting. And so now let's ask you about your production. You debuted with an album called Elektro Guzzi on Macro Records. That was 2010, if I remember correctly. So Macro is the label of Stefan Goldman. And I wanted to ask, like, how has the demand for your live shows affected the way you produce and release music? Because I imagine, and I read a lot of interviews where you said you were touring a lot at that time after that record came out, and you started getting pulled into live gigs. Have you at any point changed direction or adapted to the demand for live shows and the way you produce music? Or the approach is always like let's say you get inspired in the studio and then you create the album? I don't know if I'm making sense.
I think it's Bernard, you want?
In the beginning, we had no clue about how we play this music in clubs or how we should play. So for the first album, we went in the studio and really improvised. And then we made the record. And after this record, we suddenly played in clubs like Fabric and Berghain. And
wow,
we said, okay, now we have to see what happens. And then we developed, I would say it took us 1 year to develop a live set which really worked in clubs. We had to improve this because we didn't know about big sound systems work with our setup and stuff like this. And after this, when we were sure about this, it didn't change a lot from the setup. It was just the music changed, but very naturally. Like we developed the music, and we had no expectations from outside which changed the sound or something like this. We just did what we wanted to do and released one record after the other and played live shows. So it was just in the beginning when we really had to adapt our sound to big systems and clubs and festivals.
Yeah, and I guess when you say adapt, it's more like in a technical way. So finding expression, perhaps.
Yeah, and especially the bass drum was a challenge in the beginning because it was acoustic in the studio, and then we tried to make it with trigger sounds. We tried different techniques to produce this big techno sound, and in the end I have one module which I use since 10 years.
Wow,
for this.
What module is that?
It's the Yomox bass drum module.
Okay.
Which is triggered.
Okay, perfect.
So it's a mix of acoustic sound and this synth sound.
Almost like layering lights for the bass drum. Yeah,
because you won't get the really big techno sound on a big system with just the acoustic. Or maybe you can, but we didn't go for that. So
and also we are working with like our sound engineer who for the live gigs, Mario, and he's with us like since I don't know, also like 12 years or something. And he's like a really important part in the live set because he's also like we developed a lot with him, and he's a very important part because he's like really going with the faders the whole show. He's really playing with us, and it's very important to have him for the shows because we couldn't do it without him. In the beginning, the first shows, I remember after the first album, we had these shows in Fabric and big festivals at Sona and stuff like that. And we had no technician at the time. So we went only us three. And it was so difficult to explain to the sound engineers how it should sound. And it was very difficult at the beginning, and then we started to work with Mario, and since then he's like a very important part for the live shows because he really knows it, and it's very nice to have him in the shows.
Yeah, I can imagine. What's his full name? Mario
Stadler.
shout out to Mario that started you.
Yeah.
Amazing, and that's fantastic. So you found like your way to eventually adapt your live approach to the club to make it sound like technically the way. But artistically, it doesn't seem you got influenced so much from the change of environment. And in terms of like the production, so you released a lot on Macro Records by Stefan. How I know I read on another interview, you sent them an email, they liked the music, you ended up like starting collaborating with them. When you then released other releases, I believe Parquet is also on Macro. That was a year later or something like that. Were they asking you to send them demos for new music, or you were proactively say, hey, this is a new piece or a new EP that we're working on?
Yeah, it was like from the beginning a very nice collaboration with them. It was very funny. I read an article in a music magazine about Macro at that time, and we sent them a demo CD, like really old school.
Wow.
And Stefan and Finn, they liked it, and then I met them in Berlin, and then we decided to do it. And it was from the beginning a really nice collaboration, and it's a fantastic label, and they're really nice people, and it was perfect for us. It was really very lucky. We were very lucky to find them, and Stefan also helped us to get in touch with a booking agency he was working together at the time, and all this really pushed it so much. And in the end, it was like we said, okay, we want to do the next album. Do you want to release it? And they suddenly said yes, of course. And so I think we did 5 albums on Macro or something like that.
Yeah.
And EPs and singles, and we were really lucky with them, and yeah, it was a great collaboration with them.
Yeah, and I mean they do great music. We also have Stefan in the show a few, I think now a month and something ago. And I remember like Parquet is probably the release that made me get to know your music. I remember Pentagonia, Fumicato were my favorite songs. I was looking for inspiration at that time, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. I love it. Like it's very interesting music. I would define it as like fine techno in a way. Fine in terms of like very it's not like banging techno, but still very, very interesting and involving. And now I remember like you also release like you just released an album Trip, and we're gonna talk about that now in details. But before that, like you also released another album called Axe Daxe, if I pronounce it correctly.
Yes.
And that was 2017 what was the experience like back then, like when you released that album, and how much of that changed with the album you just released?
At that time when we released Axe Daxe, it was we had a super productive time in our studio in Vienna for like 3 months. Something changed in the way we played together. At that time we just tried, because we did a lot of albums and releases and shows at that time, and then we decided to, just for fun, to try to play also with drum machines. And so like I took a drum machine, Jakob took a synthesizer, Bernhard took some other gear, and we just very openly started to play. And I think in 3 or 4 months we produced like 50 or 60 tracks. It was amazing.
Wow.
It was like going by itself, like choo. And at that time, Axe Daxe we created that album, and this was like a very inspiring time, because it also helped us to, like at some point to put away the guitar and take a synthesizer instead. It was very free somehow. It felt very good at the time, and it was very nice. And I'm also super happy about this album. I like it very much. It has a good flow, and it's different than the stuff we released before.
Yeah.
And we found out that we can use any instrument, that it doesn't matter so much. So if we just have to find a way to play together, and we can do it with any instrument if you want. And this was a very inspiring time when we did this album.
Yeah. Was there something like in terms of your influences or your life beyond music, was there something that was very different, like compared to other releases that you did? Maybe, I don't know, I'm trying to think whether there is any external condition that helped you be so inspired, because it seems that you really had a lot of inspiration at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I think it's very small changes in the setup which help us a lot, and these mostly happen in the studio, because the live sets is always under very the same conditions, the same setup, because we have to be safe when we go on stage. And in the studio, we try to experiment, and sometimes small changes in the setup do a lot with our sound. And then suddenly, okay, if we use this, then we can make a whole album now. And suddenly, 2 hours later, there is an album finished. So sometimes this happens, and sometimes we are 1 week in the studio and nothing happens, and it's very frustrating. So but yeah. So that it's not coming from outside, or it's not inspiration. It's more really like changing or trying different things.
Yeah. And it's very true what Bernard said. I think that's maybe the main reason why we do albums, because in the end we feel that we are a live band. So when we, for example, people ask us when we tour, we have some shows coming up this summer, and we played already some shows. And people ask, are you playing the tracks from the new album? And we say, no, I don't know. We don't do that, like, so we're not like a band who is like releasing an album and then going on tour and playing this album. We don't do that. But I think we do albums because it helps us to develop something new, to find a new way to interact, to play. So that's the main reason why we go in the studio and record albums, to develop our sound, to progress.
Yeah. And very, very important point. How do you end up choosing what goes into the album? For example, now with the latest one, Trip, you self-release it on your label, so you had creative editorial power, let's say. How do you choose which track you wanted to put in the release? Was it sorry, go ahead.
No. I think in the end, like, it was not so difficult for this album. We had like a lot of music we recorded for this album. It was 3 days in the studio, and we played it like, I don't know, I would say like 6 hours, 7 hours of music we recorded. And then we had an Excel sheet where we had all the tracks and then we gave ratings. And in the end, it was very clear from the first beginning, okay, which tracks had the highest ratings. And so it's like, for us, really important that each of us is like really sure about it. So if somebody says, okay, I'm not sure about this track, it's like, it's no question. So we don't release it. So it's always about only when we are all three very sure that it's a good piece of music, we release it. And so I think the process was like in 2 or 3 days, we knew which tracks we want to put on the album. So it was like, this is not so difficult for us to choose tracks.
It seems like it's more like the tracks that you feel mostly connected to that eventually become the album.
Yes.
And the other interesting thing that comes to mind is that from a electronic music club oriented producer that I am, I see releases usually as a way to, I mean, you want to showcase also what you do, but usually you do stuff oriented to the club in a way to showcase your DJ set capabilities. And they tend to be very short, like usually it's a single or EP or 3 or 4 tracks. In your case, releasing music is mostly about the album. Is that because that resembles your live set? Although you just said that like you wouldn't play the album when you go out, right? You would play something different, but is the album resembling like your repertoire in a way?
I think we at some point we realized that like singles didn't work so well for us, so that like the people who are like fans who buy our music, like they're more interested in albums than in singles.
And the thing is in electronic music, most people produce for the club.
Yeah.
And our music isn't really played a lot in clubs or from DJs. So it doesn't work so well. Like we said, before you have to see it live.
Yeah.
And it's not, so it's much more, maybe it's more music to listen at home or to listen in different contexts. So the album worked always better for us than EPs or singles, because they didn't get so much recognition in the electronic music world. And with the album, we get recognition in all the music industry.
Yeah, because I guess it touches a broader audience, so not just club goers. Yeah. And when have you tested singles before? I know you have released with 2 tracks with Kink as well. You have few releases that I know about, but like when you tested singles, you got less reaction, or?
Yes, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, got it. Very interesting. It is very. I guess it's probably like a different audience. People that are your fans expect also different type of experience.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And so now let's talk about your latest album. So Trip. Let's go from the origin. Like when you launched the album basically in the midst of a global pandemic, and I read in another interview that you just did that the album was ready in June 2020. And fact check me if I'm wrong here, but how was the experience of launching the album when basically the world is crashing? There's no live gigs. It must have felt like frightening to some extent. Did you feel this way?
Yeah, totally. And also the process in the beginning was weird because we did the recording, I think in January or something, 2020, and then we started editing it, and then the pandemic started, and then we did editing like online. So like we send us the edits to each other, and the process was very weird because normally we do it together, and we go to the studio, we meet up, and then we work on the stuff. And this was very weird. And in the end, the album was ready in June or something, and we wanted to release in fall 2020. And then we were really unhappy with the result, or not so confident, and we recorded it again, like in October.
Wow. Okay.
So this was like in that sense, we were very lucky with the pandemic, because normally we couldn't do that, because normally you do an album and then you try to release it and you go on. But in that time, we realized, okay, it's no rush, so let's do it good, let's do it like perfectly, let's do it like only release it when we are really satisfied with the product. And we recorded it again in October.
Wow.
And decided to release it like in like the next year, and this was a very good decision, and we're very happy about that.
Yeah. So going forward, would you take the same approach? Like if for the next album, would you guys consider taking more time after you finish the album to re-record it or evaluate it, or you are not sure?
That's hard to say.
It's hard to say,
because it's always, as I mentioned before, sometimes you go in the studio and you have you feel good together, and then you can record an album in 2 hours, or sometimes you need half a year. So it's you can't always say. Also, if you have a very good idea or concept for the album, it can not be good, or vice versa.
Yeah.
So
got it.
It's hard to tell.
And in that case, it was also like we were ready with the album. It was like more or less like the tracks were done and mixed, and then the concert started again in last summer, and for some reason we discovered something new while playing live at the time. So something changed in the interplay, and we discovered something, and it felt so good, and it felt so much better and stronger than what we had recorded before, that we decided, okay, we want to do it again, record it again, and put this energy or the thing we discovered in the new recording. So it was also like for us in the interplay changed, and so that was also the reason why we were not so satisfied with the first recording.
Got it. Super interesting. And when you say you recorded it again, like that was basically like going back to the studio, all the three of you together, and re-recording the entire thing. So with a different take on each track, right?
Yes, exactly. And we also we did for the first thing, we edited it a lot and did overdubs and stuff. And for the trip, for what's now on the record, it's without any overdubs, and it's just we played it like this. And it was we did some kind of a step in our interplay. I don't know, it just happened to us.
Yeah, super interesting. For me, like when I listen to the album, I think Rotor is my personal favorite. I find it very dreamy, dubby. It's also quite club oriented, so maybe that's why I also love it. Is there, like, for you two and Jakob personally, is there any other track that you guys feel mostly connected to, even like at individual level? No.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's Escalator is the signature track for me, because I really can remember how it was in the studio to play this, because we smiled at each other and knew then, okay, this is something special happening now. We don't want it to end it. So it was a very long session. I think it was half an hour, really driving, and it didn't end. So this was a very, very special moment in the studio, and I think it was for all three of us. I would say also for Jakob.
Yeah.
So this is maybe the most energetic track, or where this Elektro Guzzi energy is catch the most.
Yeah, totally. For me, it's the same. It's very funny. We cut it out in the end, because after we finished the track, we were like, it was on the recording, so yay! So it was like, really, we are really so.
Yeah, we were in the zone for half an hour, and this was really a nice moment.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. So you guys, all the three of you agree, I guess, on the same track. That
I would say.
That's great. Wow. And are you? So when you chose the order of the tracks, was there any specific logic in that? Well, because you start with more mellow music, and then eventually, escalates like the name of the track, but it really does escalate. The energy goes up and up and up, and then it ends up again into a more mellow.
I don't know. There was no big discussion, or there was no big concept.
But Jakob was really behind that. So Jakob chose the.
Yeah.
He was, at that time, it was somehow.
That's right.
His part somehow he really put.
But it's always he's always taking this very serious in all albums, and the two of us is like, okay, we are finished. Let's release it. Doesn't matter.
Let's go party. Let's go play.
No, Jakob is very serious about that. It's very important. I think
which is good. Yeah.
He spent a lot of time in and that's also talking about this. It's also why it works so well with us, because each of us has its own skills somehow, I would say, and it's really matches very well. So in this case, Jakob is, for him, it's very important, and so he takes the responsibility, and he does it, and that's very nice, because we all very each of us has his responsibilities, and we can trust on each other that the person is doing it well and good, so we don't have to care. So Bernard and I, we don't have to think so much about
we can go partying.
Complementary skills. And I want to ask you more about this, but in the meantime, for people who are listening, guys, if you want to ask any questions to Bernard, Elektro Guzzi, type them in the comment of the Facebook video. So we're going to filter the question and ask them to Bernard. But let's go back to you guys. So first of all, let's do a shout out to Jakob, who's probably working now. And so what are your main skills in the trio? Let's start with you, Bernard Hammer. What is your main skill?
So I'm always I'm the clown. And I'm a little bit responsible for the mood. Okay. I think the mood manager.
I love the definition. That should be a job title.
Mood manager.
And I don't know, maybe we should more Bernhard should say what my skills are. I can tell you what Bernhard's skills are.
Yeah. But Bernard, I can see mood manager is definitely the right description, or the because Jakob and I often take it much too serious, everything, and we get in deep discussions, and the mood gets down and down and down, and Bernard has the ability to bring it up. I would say with different skills. He knows what I mean.
So before, okay, no, please continue.
Yeah, no, and it's, I don't know, it's, you know, like, because we are like we are like a how should I say, we like a company, you know, like we do the promotion ourselves, we have to do a lot of stuff. So I'm also like, I'm responsible for the social media stuff and a little bit about that. And each of us is doing everything more or less. So we are all like quite good in mixing and producing, and so we share a lot. But I would say Jakob and Bernard are really very serious about the quality of the music. Doesn't mean that I'm not so serious about it, but I would be also like, be more like, I would say, okay, fuck it, I like this track, it's funny, it's very cheesy, but let's put it out and then just do it. And then we would have a discussion with Bernard and Jakob, and they would probably say, no, it's too cheesy. And so it's good. So I can really rely on these two, because they have both of them a very good taste of music, and I really trust to that taste very much. So, but in the end, we do everything together and we decide everything together. So it's a very basic democratic band.
Yeah. It makes sense, and it seems like you guys are very, you work a lot together, like you're very complementary and cohesive. And Bernard, like let's talk about the other Bernard. Like, what is your skill, your main skill in the group?
Mine?
Yours.
I can't tell.
Okay,
maybe Bernard knows.
Bernard Hammer, tell us.
So I think he's keeping the groove. So it's like, so because we do, like, sometimes we do this like rhythm exercises, like we play like a pattern or a groove, like in a very slow tempo, and then we increase the tempo slowly, and then Bernard is giving very good feedback to like the groove, and so I think he's the master of the groove. That's his main skill.
Groove master.
Yes.
Nice. And what about Jakob?
Jakob is, for me, it's musically wise, it's very important always, because his main sentence in rehearsals is, we have to keep it more minimal.
Okay.
And that's always a very good, in most of the moments he's right, because Bernie and I can get very excited about sounds and what is possible, and everything gets huge and more like rock band sound, and he always wants it to keep very minimal, and in most of the cases he's right. I would say it's very important that we say most. but that's really something he recognizes much more than us, because he has a better view from outside than us, a better focus. So that's his, and which again works really good for the group, because Benny goes crazy with sounds, which is very good, because if it would be just Jakob and me, it would be boring techno house music, and he brings the craziness in it. And so so that's why it works as a trio, I think, so well since so many years.
Yeah. And it's very inspiring, because Jakob, he can play his bass line, like, which is not changing at all for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
And he enjoys it.
He enjoys it. There's no problem with that. He doesn't feel weird about it or something. And it's very inspiring, because that's like, you can do that, you know, like you can stay on one thing, and it will, if you're like confident about it, it will never be boring, you know. You play this group like for hours, and it will be never, and he has this kind of confidence, and it's also very it influences me a lot, and it gives me also the confidence to stay minimal, and that you can like afford to be minimal, you know. And it's very nice.
You don't need to add a lot of stuff to make it cool and interesting for people.
Yeah.
Super interesting. And we do have a question from the audience, which is, what is your, like, okay, I guess this is pre-pandemic. What is your favorite festival or club? Or let's make it more generic. What are like 2 or 3 of the most favorite clubs you played in?
Obviously, it was Bergheim.
Okay.
At the Panorama Bar, we played I think 2 or 3 times, and this was obviously the
Highlight.
the best highlight. But from festival wise, for me, always all the Mutec festivals were really good, and also Sonar festivals. But the Mutec festivals were really special. We had really good gigs there. Also in Canada and also in Mexico, which was 2 years ago, which was really one of the highlights of our career, I would say. It was really, really, really good.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I don't know, favorite clubs. It's like one of the, I don't know, at the beginning we played at this, I think the club doesn't exist anymore. It was this Trau in Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah.
And it was such a good sound there. And I remember that it was like so amazing to be in this club and to listen. Like I don't remember the gig so well how it was, but I remember that I was sitting after our show that I was dancing and the sound was so good. I never heard such good sound in a club. It was so fantastic. It was so good. And this was a magic moment for me, like in a audiophile way. It was like incredible.
Yeah, and then Trau eventually, like the same organizers, ended up creating the school. I don't know if you've been to the next. Yeah, then now I think shut down. I believe during the pandemic because it was meant to shut down. They decided to close because there was no party. But also, I never been to Trau myself, but the school for me is the best club I've ever been. Like it's like with no doubts. With all the respect to Berghain, amazing club as well. But Trau. The school, like it's magic place, very interesting. And okay, another question, which is what is any gigs planned for 2021? Anything you can announce?
There's some stuff going to happen in Austria. So we play in Bavaria like this Saturday. And close to Nuremberg on a festival, and there's a few shows in Austria, and in September we play in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
And so this will be the first, like, except this gig in Germany, like it will be the international shows, like they're not coming in so much at the moment, but of course it's like very difficult and it will stay like this. So we are planning a little tour for fall. So like for Austria, Germany, maybe Switzerland and Italy, and hope that we can really travel Europe soon. So it's very unclear how it will develop, but I think when it's going to be possible, there will be also gigs around Europe and maybe outside of Europe. So we planned a Japan tour like for the 2020. For like April, May, of course, didn't happen. So I hope we can do it like in the beginning of 22. Well, let's see, because we have a really nice contact there. So we've been to Japan a few times, and we know a really nice guy there who's like he has a record shop in Kyoto, and he's a very nice DJ, and he's like always organizing nice shows for us. So let's hope that we can do that. So because we really miss it. We really miss like traveling and playing like around the world, because it's nice to play in Austria. It's cool, and we also have like a good crowd here. But it's such a good feeling if you get invited by like, doesn't matter if like a gig in Italy invites you. It's such an honor, like that people outside your like home country like are interested in your music, and it feels so good. And it's so beautiful about this job, like this traveling around and playing in different countries. And also I hope that we can do it soon.
I cross my finger for everyone and for you guys a lot. And I was smiling before when you mentioned Japan, because another question we got was, when are you coming back to Tokyo? So you answered that question. Hopefully soon.
22. Definitely 22. Yeah, we're planning.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Like, hopefully everybody's hoping for the same.
I think it will happen, of course. I think I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, we gotta stay very positive. And as we go toward the wrap up, I have a few more questions that I wanted to ask. Anything? So one is, are you currently rehearsing, preparing, recording something new, like in terms of releases?
We have a big plan for autumn, because we want to do on our labels 3 EPs, which present our solo projects. Okay. Every one of us has a solo project. And so we want to do 3 EPs and 1 physical album by Elektro Guzzi, where we play songs from the solo EPs. So that's the big project for autumn. And then we also recorded last summer. We recorded some stuff with string quartet. Wow. It was we did 1 concert with a string orchestra, and we did a composition for this. And so we wanted to record it, and now we have to make our music we have to record our music as from the trio for this. And we don't know when this is going to be released, but hopefully in 2022. Okay, so this is the plans for the recordings, the next recordings.
Amazing. I was trying to look for the quartet. Is that recorded or not? The work you did.
So we had this composition. We were asked by the Stuttgart Kammer Orchestra. It's like an orchestra like in Stuttgart in Germany. Like we had. So we were asked to compose for them. So we composed and had 1 show with them, and it was like a big challenge for us to do that. And we managed to compose 1.5 hours of music for like string orchestra with us together. And we managed that, and last summer it was heavy. And last summer we recorded just the string parts, so all the string parts are like already recorded, and so we gonna like work on our music for that, and we'll record it to the string recordings. And so really looking forward to this release. So because it's the orchestra we've been working with is like a Viennese-based orchestra, like Studio Dan. It's the name of the orchestra. It's like for experimental, new, modern music. Yeah, and there's very good musicians, and the recordings were really well done, and it sounds amazing. And really looking forward to this release.
Yeah, and is that if I hear correctly, you're gonna release that on Palazzo on your label, or that's
something we have to decide. So like this with these 3 solo EPs, and like the where we do our solo projects, and then we play like the solo compositions on the vinyl. This will be definitely on Palazzo, but for the string orchestra we have to check. So maybe it's like worth to look for another label which has more like impact. So let's see.
Yeah. I mean, amazing. Like I'm looking forward to hearing that. And another question that I have is, any artist that you guys are listening to at the moment? Anything, doesn't have to be electronic music, but any artist that you guys are feeling connection with, known, unknown, whatever you like.
I discovered HoS.
Oh wow, yeah, of course.
Because I didn't know him. Maybe I heard his music before, but I didn't. And then I checked. Then I had 1 album of him, and then I tried to get everything of him, because it's really great what he's doing in this
amazing music.
Yeah, and how he produces music is really interesting. I think it's a very good. It connects also very good with our concept of making music.
Yeah. Very specific sound. I think I don't know if you came across, maybe Stroboscopic Artifacts, the label from Lucy. Yeah, a lot of interesting stuff on the label. Definitely recommended. And Bernard Hammer, anything from you?
So I was thinking, was what I discovered not so long ago is like an artist from the States. It's like more like a songwriter, singer-songwriter, kind of pop. It's like a Perfume Genius, and I don't know. I totally fall in love with his music. It's very.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's really great music.
It's great music, and the guy who is producing his music is Blake Mills, and it's a fantastic producer. It's more like kind of roots music, blues, singer-songwriter stuff, and it's such good production. The production is so amazing. It's so good, and I'm a big fan of how this guy works. And it's like a kind of really experience to listen to this music because it's so well produced. And it's in the kind of way it's like old music, but it sounds very new because it's so cinematic, or I don't know how to say. And I'm listening a lot to this. At the moment, I'm not listening so much to electronic music, so it changes for me. Like sometimes I have like times when I listen much more and basically like electronic music I like also to listen in clubs. So, and this was not possible now. So for me, it's like I like to listen to electronic music in clubs. So it's at home, it's okay. It's also nice to do that, but it's not the same. I think it's meant for the club. So I like it more to listen to electronic music in the club. So when it starts again, I will hopefully listen a lot to electronic music soon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it does have a different experience when you're at home or listening in headphones. It's not as pleasant. Yeah, and two more questions which we always ask to everyone in the interviews is who is a guest that you think we should really speak with, we should really invite in the show, and why? If you could suggest any person, any artist.
There are so many. I don't know.
I mean, I was at the concert 2 weeks ago by Roisin Sharafi. She's Viennese-based electronic musician, very young, and she is really amazing. I think she has a great future in front of her, and she does really great concerts and great music. So I think she's a very interesting person.
Okay. Roisin Sharafi.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Wow. Very, very interesting. And is she based in Vienna also?
She's based in Vienna.
She's
Iran. Originally from Iran and now based in Vienna.
How do you spell her first name?
Rojin.
Okay, wow. J-I-N. Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, interesting. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. It's first.
Okay.
Thank you. And anyone else like from you, Bernard Hammer?
Yeah, I'm thinking. There's somebody. What's her name? It's like she's like a modeler, synthesizer player, Julia Bonda. Yeah. I'm a big fan of her. She's like very interesting what she's doing with the modeler, and her live set is very, very nice. How she works with the modular synthesizer in a club setting, and how she connects it to like a really very dancey, ravey kind of music, because this is, I think, I don't know, I also have a modular synthesizer, and it's for me, I cannot even imagine to play with that live, because it's so fragile somehow. If you have a sound and like to change this, you have to be so good with it. You have to practice so much on the modular synthesizer to use it live.
Yeah.
And what she's doing, it's amazing, and I'm a very big fan. So I also like, I listen a lot to her music. It's like Julia Bonda is fantastic.
Yeah, she's fantastic. I came across a few of her stuff, but sorry, continue.
No, it's like I would definitely listen to the interview if you could invite her, or if she, because I'm very, I think I read some interviews with her, also like how she's working, and I think she knows a lot, and she has a lot to tell, and yeah, it would be cool.
I'm gonna give her a shout out right now, and yeah, very cool. And I think 2 more questions. Actually, one from the audience. I know this might be actually tricky, but someone is asking, how do you manage click between drum and the bass? Like, yeah, technical question.
I didn't get it.
The click, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
Between the drum and the bass. Yeah, how do you manage? Yeah.
We a long time it was just me having a click in the ear, and the others followed that click. Okay. Now we do it with a delay, which is always going on, and everyone orientates on this on the timing of the delay. So that's basically
very interesting.
Yeah, and also like it's also something because we always the click problem was always like an issue, because as Bernard said before, like in the beginning he had only the click, so he had really to push it, and it was very exhausting for him, like because he had to stay on it, and so he had also like to always had to push us. And then for some time we each of us had the click, because we since 2 years we play like with in-ear monitoring, which also changed a lot in our playing. And then we had the click, each of us had the click, and now we are trying to do it without click, like Bernard said, like with like he's like playing some delay loops which define the tempo somehow, and we follow this, which is much nicer. And like the tick tick tick. And also like we try, this was always like our goal, or I wish to play totally without it, so we are working on that still. So like in the last rehearsal we played a lot without click and without this loops, delay loops thing, and I think slowly maybe we can manage to kick out the click.
Wow.
Like the machine.
The machine out. Super interesting. And the very last question, I promise, and I'll let you guys go. What question would you like us to ask the next guest without knowing who they're going to be? It can be anything.
Did you ever hear of Elektro Guzzi?
Okay, fair enough.
If you would have not become an electronic musician, what would it be?
Wow. Very cool. What would you be? Yeah. And there is a question from the previous guest. You had to imagine this. What is your purpose in life? Wow. Drop the mic. I can go.
I don't know, to have like to enjoy it, to have a good life, and not to like, and also be like aware of your surrounding and society, and also like be like careful about what's happening, like and see and realize what's happening in a kind of democratic way, because like as you know, in Austria we have like a very right-wing government, and it's like really very dangerous, and it's not only Austria, it's like Hungary and Poland and whatever, and in so many countries it's like really hardcore. And when you see what's happening in Hungary at the moment, what laws they're doing, it's like so crazy, and it's so dangerous. And so I would say it's also like a purpose to enjoy life, but still see what's happening. And if you can like do something, do it. And if you see something which is wrong, like you can always like act, and you should act. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I can't say it better. That's very well said.
You saved yourself from there.
Thank you.
Boom. No, I fully agree. And it is indeed like hard sometimes to do that, but it is beautiful thought and a great way to end a nice interview. So thank you guys for being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really amazing interview. It was enjoyed it a lot. Thank you.
Me too.
Likewise, and another toast. Yes. Everyone listening, thank you for connecting. Thank you to Elektro Guzzi. Thank you, Jakob, for not being with us, but being with us in spirit.
Yes.
And thanks, Bernard and Bernard, for being with us. Have a good
Thank you.
evening, and see you soon. See you next time.
You too, Joseph. Thank you.
Thank you.
All the
Thank
best.
you.
Have good holiday, yeah?
Yes, I will do. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Hello, this is Joseph again. If you made it this far into the podcast, we would love to hear your feedback, and you can leave any comments anonymously or with your name, and also suggest whom we should interview next via the link bit.ly/HOS_feedback. Basically, bit.ly HoS_feedback. If you're a creator or work in music, you can also check our website www.homeofsound.co.uk for on-demand masterclasses with creators such as Ansom, Scarameria, François X, Swarm Intelligence, Freddy K, Face Fatal, Vijay Martinovna, Malika Maria, Lag, BSK, Romek, Manidi, Arjun Bagale, and many, many more. And again, thank you for listening, engaging, and being with us home. Until next time.